Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
And I'm Emily.
Emily and I are here today to talk about the 2024, which happened to be also the 2023, Fischer Ranger 96 and 102. If you follow our channel, or if you've been following our channel for, I guess, over a year, you would know that we did a ton of content on these skis last season. They were brand new. This was essentially their first full season, and now they carry forward into 2024 with same shapes, same graphics, all that stuff. I spent a ton of time on them, particularly this 102, that's the Celeste color over there, but also the 96 last season. Really had quite a good time. Kind of found myself really liking that 176 Ranger 102 that's next to Emily over there. And I was trying to think of a way that we could revisit these skis, because they didn't get, I don't know, they didn't seem like they were in the focal point this season. They weren't getting a ton of attention this year. And I thought the perfect way to give them some, or to kind of circle back to them and chat about them again would be to bring Emily in, because you had not skied them before this previous season, and we had a really good day on,
actually
both of them.
Very memorable one.
Yeah, it was awesome. Memorable for a few reasons, because I happened to hit a tree on that day, which wasn't super fun.
But not on either of these.
No.
So.
No, that was on the Ranger 108. You know, it was on a big one too, which we can talk about at the end. Maybe if there's time, that ski is, that 108's a lot of ski. Which I've learned multiple times now. But figured we would do kind of a refresher on shape and construction here. The Ranger line is huge. It actually expands by one ski. For 2024, they added a Ranger 84, so now it's from 84 all the way up through 116. The 90 and the 84, the construction is a little bit different, but when you start at 96 and just go up through all the widths, they are basically identical, with basically like the shape of the metal changing. So in both of these skis, this is the 102 here, this is the 96, same thing over there with Emily. We've got a beech and poplar wood core, pretty simple wood core, nothing crazy going on in the core of the ski. And then we have this shaped TI laminate, which may be hard to see on camera from over there, but we'll get some close-up shots of it so you can see, which is kind of a, like, it's a little bit H-shaped. You know, other manufacturers use more of a specific shape, like H, actual shape. I always thought it looked like kind of extended like butterfly wings.
Oh, yeah.
But it is almost full width underfoot, and then it kind of tapers and cuts into two different wings in both the fore and the aft sections of the ski. And then they also put this little flex cut in here, which is basically just designed to give the ski a little bit more natural flex pattern right underfoot, kind of enhance the sweet spot of the ski. And basically what happens as you go up in width, that metal laminate in there gets shorter and shorter. So in the 96, or at least among the skis that we're going to talk about, in the 96 it's the longest, and then it gets a little bit shorter in the 102. And then shorter in the 108, shorter in the 116, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then from a shape perspective, pretty similar story. So this is the 96 that I have here. It is 100% a directional ski, so more tip rocker up here. I would say for a ski that's 96 underfoot, that's a pretty substantial amount of tip rocker. And then a good amount of camber and less tail rocker. There's definitely still some tail rocker back there, but I would say about half of what tip rocker is by length. And then, like that metal laminate, as we're going wider, that metal's getting shorter. As we're going wider, the rocker is also getting more and more pronounced. So in the 102 here, just get a little bit longer tip rocker. And then I would say a quite noticeable difference in the amount of tail rocker from 96 to 102, both in length and the amount of splay. And perhaps this is a good time to, as a reminder, talk about that outgoing 102, that pink ski that everyone really liked, that had kind of a cult following. The dimensions are actually identical. So this ski looks kind of different. You know, when you just look at them back to back, I'd say that 102 FR, the pink ski, looked more twin tippy.
Yeah.
They do have basically the identical rocker profile, and they are both 138, 103, 128. Really what they did is they just kind of hacked off the end of the tail. So the old ski was a little bit more rounded back there, which gave it more of that twin tip vibe. This ski has got basically like a flat skin attachment point back there for anybody that would want a tour on them. So that's basically it for shape and construction. I think it's a really easy to understand recipe in these skis. There's nothing wild about them. If anything, you could argue that the previous skis were a little bit more technologically complicated, and these skis are a little bit more just simple.
Yeah, simple.
In how they're put together. But I don't find the performance simple at all. I think the performance is awesome. Hopefully that came through last year when we talked about them. I grew quite fond of them. Kind of interesting because they definitely seem to work better for me than they did for Bob, which I don't really know why. I wonder if it's kind of like a weight thing. But I'm really interested to hear your take.
Yeah.
So starting with the 96 and maybe starting with firmer on-piste conditions,
Yeah.
what was your experience like?
I mean, for me, the word that comes to mind is just really versatile and well-rounded.
Yeah.
I found this perfect blend between maneuverability, agility, and just stability.
Yep.
They had really fantastic edge grip. I mean, I remember right off the bat taking a few turns on, I think we were hayride.
Yep, I think we skied hayride a bunch,
Yep.
which is really, really good testing terrain.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty steep.
Has a great
but
pitch.
then you can find some soft stuff too on the sides.
Totally. So like just giving it a whirl and testing it out, it was, I felt like I could do a variety of turn shapes at different speeds.
Yep.
Really, really good edge grip, like I keep saying, just super stable underfoot. And then I found the shovels to be a bit soft.
Yeah.
And so that said, I just felt like arcing a turn and bending the ski was really easy and intuitive feeling.
Yeah.
And then in that turn, I just felt really confident and stable underfoot.
Yeah.
And then, slowing it down and kind of taking some turns on the side of the trail, I remember we did after that first pitch, and just really maneuverable.
Yeah.
And so that just speaks to, like I said, that balance, that just like sweet spot between really maneuverable, intuitive, and then like incredibly stable.
Yeah. No, I have a lot of thoughts about this whole situation with these skis. And I often think that skis that are very well-rounded can get lost in the market of skis.
Absolutely.
Like there's 96 underfoot here. Like, think of all the skis out there that are 96 underfoot.
There's a lot.
There's a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, take something like the Vocal M6 Mantra that's so precise and stiff and powerful.
Yep.
And then take something like an Elan Ripstick 96 that's light and soft and like playful and agile. Something like this Ranger 96 like kind of falls right in between those skis.
Right.
So I totally understand why certain skiers could pass over this, because they would look at their own skiing style and say like, oh, I'm a playful skier, I'll go Ripstick. Or, oh, I'm a ripping carving skier, I gotta go Mantra. When I think realistically, this is a really good tool for a lot of skiers because it does have that mix. Like it's not limitless edge grip by any means, but it's certainly enough, I think.
Yeah.
Like if you ski it back to back to a Mantra, it doesn't feel quite like that.
Right.
But yeah, I love carving on this ski, and I think the soft flex in the tips and tails, like the word that often comes to my mind thinking about both of these skis is supple.
Yep.
Like they feel smooth and supple
totally.
and pretty intuitive. And I wonder, Bob, it didn't seem like they worked as well for him, and I wonder if his frame at 225, if he needs something more like that Mantra when he's trying to ski hard like that.
Right.
And I think that's probably what it is, because for me, they're awesome.
Yeah.
And that you can rip carves on them, and then you can go dance around on the side of the trail.
And especially for me and like my size and my weight, it's like I do like to have that really good torsional stiffness, edge grip underfoot.
Right.
But I also like to be able to ski bumps and like
Right.
really get that, feedback from the tips and be able to flex them.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's like, and maybe it's, I'm compared to most male skiers, my height, I'm on the lighter side as well. So I wonder if that's part of it, because you and I both seem to like they work really well. Like you get on them, it's like, yep, this is a great ski. I can literally do like whatever I want.
I remember. I remember on that first run, you're like, all right, we're gonna go to this spot, and then get some turns on the side of the trail, and I felt like it took me a second to feel them out, and then once I found that, like got my groove, I remember I kept skiing, and you yelled stop at me, and I was like,
sure.
I just like was having such a good
going.
time. Yeah, it was like so intuitive feeling, and it was hard to like, break my stride.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think that was the only time I yelled stop at you
Probably
this year.
not. Probably not, but
you and Megan were both offenders of not stopping where dictated.
Yes.
But no, I think it's an extremely well-rounded all-mountain ski.
Yeah. And, there's always a ski that has better edge grip and can carve more aggressively. And there's better, softer, more playful bump tree skis. But, just to speak to its versatility, and just for a lot of people who don't have the ability to own multiple pairs of skis.
Correct.
It's like, if you are looking for that one ski to do it all on a given day, I mean, it really, truly is a great candidate for that.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And I think you could say, moving on to the 102 now, I think you could say the same thing about the 102, probably more for a Western skier.
Yeah.
Maybe it may be true here in Vermont too, if you're like the type of skier who 90% of the time is searching for off-piste stuff, but I find this ski very well-rounded too. And same kind of thing. I just find it so intuitive and so easy to ski, and I don't mind that it's not the strongest thing in the world, nor the lightest thing in the world. I just find that it's well-rounded nature, and how easy it is to ski works really well for me.
Yeah, and for a 102 underfoot ski, it's like, sure, you're gonna maybe take that out, I mean, especially on the East Coast, on a, with fresh snow and softer snow conditions, but how long are you really gonna be able to reap the benefits of like a couple inches, or, like a powder day? It's like, eventually you're gonna wanna go back on piste, and you don't wanna sacrifice that performance. And these skis are, I mean, for how wide they are, I found them really impressive, like carvers.
Yeah, no, I love the way they carve. It's, to me, it's very similar to the 96. It's not quite as strong, and you don't get quite as much like snap out of the tail of the ski when you're finishing a turn in particular. But I've always found that this ski carves really well, that 102. And kind of compared to the outgoing ski, that pink ski, the Ranger 102 FR, that carving and like vibration damping and just the smooth feel of like arcing a turn is one of the areas where I felt like they really improved the ski. Where that previous ski, it could do it, but the tip, like that carbon nose, would like get a little bit bouncy and chattery at times, where this ski, at least for me, just feels very, very smooth. And again, like the word supple always keeps coming back into my mind. Yeah. Thinking about the 102.
Yeah, and I found, again, similar to the 96, the tips were softer than the mid and the tail. And so, carving, initiating that turn, bending into it, it was really pretty intuitive again, and easy. And then just like finishing a turn, you definitely got that precision, that good feedback.
Totally.
And, I think what I found on the 102s, like, it took me a little bit longer than on the 96s to find that sweet spot. Like, I felt like given the softness in the tips, it's like, you're not able to really like be super, super forward. Like, you definitely want to be a little bit more centered. But then once you found that sweet spot, it was like, I mean, especially given how I like to ski, it's like, I definitely am pretty forward and like to drive through the tips and like bumps and all that. But intuitive for sure, less so than like predictable, I guess.
Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah, like when we went into the woods and I was on these skis, you know, I was deliberately choosing my line.
Yeah, I'm curious specifically
Yeah.
how you like them in that scenario.
So when I had my line picked out and I was deliberate about where I was skiing, they were super agile, super responsive. If you weren't so precise on like where you were going, I could see getting a little like thrown off.
Yep.
Just given like the feedback from the mid section and the tails.
Yep.
You know, I could see maybe getting a little overpowered or just like, if that makes sense.
So for me, that all boiled down to length. So like when I first started skiing this ski, I like gravitated towards this length, this 183 over here. Ultimately, I decided that worked way better for me, that 176. And we were talking about it the other day, and I showed you that clip of me skiing down Bypass. And I was like, this just felt so easy. And like looking back, and in that moment, it felt like the best that I like skied. This wasn't this past year, this was the year before. But it like, that was the determining factor for me, is moving from a 183 to a 176. I was like, this is incredible.
That makes a lot of sense.
And I think that's probably important for people, is like, I think often in this range, like 102 underfoot with a good amount of rocker, instincts are to size up. But I actually think on these skis, you don't need to do that. It's a little bit easier to go longer on the 96. I don't really know why. But for me, like that 176 works so much better than this 183, which is interesting.
That is interesting. But it goes, you know, that makes sense given kind of like what my take on it was.
Yeah.
So
no, it like
important to
pretty
know.
much, aligns perfectly with what you were just saying.
Yeah. But really maneuverable. I was really impressed with how they were in the trees. And we had great conditions that day. So I remember, you know, I got some air off that, you know, a couple features and just
totally.
And then got into some bumps, and I mean, they just like were moving with me as one, and it felt I was, and you know, for a 102 underfoot, it was like, wow, this is really amazing how they're handling this, and like the immediate response I was getting from them.
No, I think they're great.
Yeah.
I think like I try and think of like other ways to describe these skis, and it's kind of like taking a Nordica Enforcer 100 and taking a Nordica Enforcer 104 free, and like combining those shapes and then taking a little bit of metal out.
Totally.
And like, you know, those two skis are wildly popular for their versatility and like maneuverability and combination of strength. But for some people, they're too heavy and it's like a little bit overkill. And I think like this is a great option then if you're kind of shopping in that category.
Yeah, kind of in between.
Yeah. And you need a really, really good ski. They ski switch reasonably well too. The thing that like, you know, when we put these skis through the original test, that was kind of like the one area where I was like, not like disappointed, but the one thing that I feel like is kind of important to point out on these skis is like the shape did stay the same from that 102 FR, more or less, but like visually, because they put this flex cut in here, I never want to move the bindings up.
Yeah.
So then like, it's not really a freestyle ski anymore, because you're truly at a directional mount point. You're pretty far back in the ski. And I just feel like when you're putting an engineering element in there, like that flex cut, like I don't want to screw it up. Like if you put the bindings like up here, it would just be weird.
Yeah, it would throw it off for sure.
So I know that people are like, I know there are people out there that are disappointed that they changed the Ranger 102 FR and turned it into this. Personally, and I feel pretty strongly about this, like the only people that should be disappointed, in my opinion, are people that were using it in the park too.
Yeah.
Because I skied it in the park and it worked, but it wasn't nearly as capable as the previous ski.
Yeah.
So I thought I would add that. You know, I think we had a lot of positives to say about it, but I think it's worth bringing up.
Yeah, and I remember when I was on the 96s, I was like really enjoying them. really thought they were just a fantastic ski that I would find myself on a given day.
Yep.
And I remember saying to you, I was like, wow, now I can't wait to try the 102s.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to love about both for different reasons. I'd say the 96s are like a little bit grippier, have better edge grip than the 102s.
Yeah.
But for how I like to ski, I mean, I just found them like, I don't know, found that sweet spot again.
Yeah.
And they were, wide enough, good flotation in the tips. Didn't feel like I was sacrificing edge grip. And then they had that like playfulness and maneuverability.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm really glad that we got your take, Emily.
Yeah.
Figure while we're here, we can talk about that 108 briefly. And
sure, yeah.
people can watch me hit a tree if they want. It's really interesting, like as you progress through the Ranger line, and I feel more confident talking about this now than I did last season because I've had more time on the whole collection in general. Like intuitively, when you look at the line, it's like, oh, okay, they get softer and more playful as you go 96, 102, 108, 116.
Yep.
And I think that's true. But for whatever reason, the 108 is like stands out as like, even though the metal is shorter, that ski is burly.
Yeah.
And like every single person that we've put on that ski to test it is like, this thing is strong.
Yep.
And that was the experience that I had on it that day. Like on that upper hayride section, I had a blast.
Yeah.
And was like skiing borderline too fast and was like feeling really good. And
Yep.
I was like, this thing rips.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, this is strong and awesome. And then getting into the woods, I think I was on a 185. And if you think about like how I felt on a 183 Ranger 102, a 185 Ranger 108 was a lot.
It's a lot of
and
ski,
I don't necessarily know that I made a significant mistake, but just kind of was a lot of ski, and I put my tip in a spot where I may not have wanted to put my tip and hit something that I didn't see under the snow, and then before you knew it, I was running into a tree and my back hurt pretty bad.
Yeah, it was just like you needed that really quick last minute maneuver, and it just wasn't capable.
And on that ski, and even on this in a 183, I'm very capable of doing that.
Yeah.
But that 108, like almost feels more like a big mountain ski, or at least it does for me. Like that would be the scenario where I would want to ski it, which like kind of funny, like at Stowe, hayride is like the closest thing we have to like open, steep, pseudo big mountain terrain. Obviously it's not big mountain, it is a literally cut trail on an East Coast mountain, but it's similar.
Or if you had it at like Spruce, where we were on that
that big like open kind of cut bowl area.
Yep.
Yeah, like that's where I would want to ski the 108 in particular. So like I think about people out west, like Snowbird Alta, thing would be a missile out there, and it would be so much fun. But for whatever reason, it doesn't like jive super well with me
tight
here
trees
on
in
the
Vermont.
east. Yeah. So I think next time we're skiing with Fischer in tight trees, I'll take a 176 Ranger 102.
Yep. Everything ended up being fine.
Oh, I'm fine.
Yep.
Yeah. It was a pretty controlled environment for hitting a tree.
Yeah,
I knew exactly what was happening.
Yep.
I strategically hit a certain part of my body on purpose. So
we're professionals.
That is true. It may not seem like it. Yeah. But, thanks, Emily.
Yeah.
Let us know if you have any questions, whether it's for me or if you want a female perspective, because these are unisex skis. And you got fun color choices over there, and I got boring colors.
I do really love the color choices on here. I know pink was a big hit, but
I think that blue is so pretty.
I do too. Yep.
I'm like a sucker for blue.
Yep.
So.
And it matched pretty well with what my outfit
it did.
was
You weren't
that day,
quite
so.
matchy, but it wasn't perfect. But it's pretty good. There were a couple other skis that were better.
Yeah.
That Faction Dancer 2X or whatever. That ski was like the exact same color as you. But anyways, let us know if you have any questions, and we'll talk to you soon.
See ya.